It's 7:30 on the dot. My name is Dr. Jeff West. My websites are BeTrulyWell.com. That is my practice website. I've been in practice for almost 27 years. YourBiotics, there's our old logo there. YourBiotics.com is the world's first and only archaea-based probiotic on the market. And Your Lawn and Garden Pro, probiotics for your lawn, garden, and farms, that literally will make it look like a pro did it without synthetic chemicals. And drwestapproved.com, which is going to house all the products and more information about the services that we do as time goes on. I do have the air conditioning going. I'm in Tampa, Florida. It was well into the 80s today, and so I need to cool it off, so hopefully that doesn't interfere with everything. But regardless, today I'm going to talk about something I'm extremely passionate about, and it is how to grow things using the power of Mother Nature without synthetic chemicals. It is very, very extremely important. Those of you that have been watching me for a while will recall this looks pretty familiar here. All right, so we have synthetic chemicals versus holistic. All right, so when I talked about nutritional supplements about a month ago, I went into the 4 types of nutritional supplements. There are the synthetic version, which is about 90-95% not absorbable, and about 5% or 10% absorbable. It's mostly, if not everything, every ingredient is synthetic version in that. It's a complete waste of money. Your body does not absorb that at all. I have taken imaging studies, x-rays of the abdominal area and the spine down here, and have seen well demarcated things that look like a pill on an x-ray. I have treated patients that work in porta potty industries. They hate synthetic vitamins and minerals because they have to get that stuff out of the human waste before they can put it in because it's undissolvable. I have patients that have worked in the sewage treatment centers in the local community in Delaware where I've been at, and they hate them as well because these vitamins and supplements get stuck in the grids. So major problems with these things. They're highly unabsorbable. The second level is the chelated ones, the ones that have a sugar molecule attached to a mineral so it becomes absorbable. These are your Vitamin Shoppe, your GNC. My mother worked in the first GNC store when it opened back in the 70s, so I'm very familiar with their nutrition because I grew up taking it. That is about half absorbable, 45 to 55% absorbable. It's some natural products and mostly synthetic. So you're basically throwing half your money away because half of it just washes right out of you through the poop and the pee. So then you get into the ones that are pharmaceutical grade, the level 3, which are 90-85% absorbable, mostly natural, some synthetics. They're pricier, but they are highly absorbable. And so you're getting most of what you pay for. And then the last version, which I was never taught, but I came to this conclusion from my own research, is that you get into the world of the holistic world where everything is 100% from nature, 100% absorbable, and that's what appears to be most effective with things that are from nature, like us, plants, animals, things like that, including the microbiome, which we'll get heavily into this evening. So that's for nutritional supplements. So tonight we're going to talk about basically farming, gardening, lawn care, and this same type of scenario. Most of what's out there is synthetic. We have heard the term better living through chemistry, but I beg to differ on that one. If we look around the world, we've got problems today. In the East Palestine, Ohio, where the first of now 2 train accidents have occurred, you have polyvinyl chloride in liquid form in a tanker that is spilled, and it was ignited on fire to burn it off into the atmosphere, which gave us dioxins. These things are highly toxic to anything living. Animals are dying, insects are dying, people are getting rashes. It's a nightmare. Better living through chemistry is short term. Long term, it's damaging because what do you do with all the chemicals? You know, I've talked about 350,000 different chemicals around the world. We're lucky if a third of those ever get tested for human safety, but what about bee safety? What about animal safety? I highly doubt it's ever tested for that. I could be wrong, but I highly doubt it. And here's one thing I know for certain. They do not test the soup of chemicals together to see what effect it has on us and bees and plants and animals, our children, and things like that. I've talked about before, since 2016 in the United States of America, this is the first time in 100 years that the life expectancy is starting to go this way. And it's been constantly since 2016, and it's not turning back around again. We're basically in trouble if we continue to do synthetic things for our bodies, synthetic things for our plants, our animals, for the environment, because it's causing problems and something has to be done. In the world of synthetic agriculture, you go from this level 1, you get into this range where you're starting to get where some lawn care companies will use organic type of nutrients, right? Which are good. It's much better than synthetics, right? But is it really good for the plant, which I'll get into? And then you have the holistic realm over here, which we're going to cover. So it's identical to anything living. So humans have similar requirements than anything else in nature, and we need to follow certain guidelines to make sure we are healthy. Remember, in healthcare, we took an oath, above all, do no harm. But in all the other industries, no oath apparently, because they're doing harm left, right. It's crazy. And I'm sick and tired of what's going on. And that's why I literally exist, to find solutions to the problems. I was a kid who didn't like what I saw. And I kept saying, I'm going to do something to change the world. I'm now 53 as of last Monday. It was my birthday. I'm 53 years old. And now I'm on a mission to make a difference and change this world we live in with solutions. So I've teamed up with brilliant scientists that are solving problems. And that's why we're here today, to go over more. So let's get more into this. So over here, we've gotten sterile soil. The number one herbicide that is basically in this synthetic world is called Roundup, or glyphosate. Okay, Roundup, if you look at its chemical compound, it is an antibiotic. People will go, no, it's an herbicide. No, it's an antibiotic in its chemistry. It also burns weeds. But it's an antibiotic, and what that is doing is it's sterilizing the soil. All right, we know it's a problem. In the last 2 years, we have had studies done in the United States and in France where 99% of French are peeing out Roundup. 80% of Americans are peeing out Roundup. That's one of 350,000 chemicals. Wonder what the rest of them are doing to our bodies. I've shown human waste chemistry of what's in it. There's a lot of stuff in the body that we're being hammered with day in and day out, and we have to do something to clean it out. So we've got this world over here that has sterilized soil. In sterile soil, we know there's poor root growth. If you look at your typical sod, the lawn that you put down, you buy sod from the big box stores or from the landscapers and they put it down. And you look at when they scrape it off the ground, the root system is about that big, that deep. That is poor root growth. People consider that the standard in the industry. It is not the standard in Mother Nature, which we'll get to. So poor root growth, which means poor nutrient absorption, because roots gather the nutrients, and it's microbes that do that work, just like it is for your gut. We can't digest food very well. We can, but not very well without microbiology. The same thing with the root structure. They cannot get to the nutrients this way, through a synthetic with no root growth. That should make sense. Plus, all the NPK fertilizer, because there's not enough roots and microbes to grab onto that nutrition and feed it into the root structure, you basically get runoff. And it's expensive in the world today. The last 2 years, the prices of synthetic fertilizer has gone this way, not down. So it's highly expensive now, and now is the time to make a change. It's highly expensive, it's toxic, it's causing problems. We are not having better life and living through chemistry anymore. It's creating too many problems. So something has to change, and we have to move in this direction. When you get over here where there's no chems needed, because Mother Nature doesn't need chemistry. It doesn't need NPK. It gets it from nature. It doesn't need herbicides, pesticides, fungicides. It naturally resists those things over here. This is the forest. This is Mother Nature. This is a forest in a drought that doesn't struggle like the lawns, the gardens, and the farms do because of this. And these are the reasons here. Poor root growth, poor nutrition uptake because of poor root growth, and the runoff, which is creating problems in the environment. And now it's expensive. And this goes along with other things such as MAP and DAP. The farmers will understand that. It's phosphate. That stuff, without microbiology, does not get uptaken into the roots, so you get very poor roots. Let me turn this back on. All right, hold on one second. I might use this in a little bit. Actually, I'm going to use this in a little bit. So I don't want to uninstall anything. So we'll get into this in a second because, oh geez, don't want that. We're going to show in a second what it does when you put microbiology on it because we have some really neat studies that have come out in the last couple years. So runoff, it's expensive. MAP and DAP without microbiology gets trapped, undissolvable, locked in the soil. And I'll share a study in a little bit on exactly what microbes do to get that stuff out of the soil. So when you put the MAP and the DAP and the NPK on your farm, on your lawn, on your garden, a lot of it runs off. Some of it, if it's sprayed, goes up into the air and it's blown over to your neighbors so they get the benefit of it. And a lot of it is locked up in the soil and the plants can't get to it because I'm going to show you without microbiology, roots cannot grow very well at all. 0 root hairs will grow. Root hairs go out, grab soil so things don't erode because this world gives you erosion. Roots grab on to soil to keep it from running away. We're going to run into problems in the out west because of all that snow falling up into the mountains. It's going to fill Lake Mead back up, which is a good thing, but it's going to go running right down, and it's just going to start mudsliding wherever people are living where they have used this kind of thing on their lawns. It creates problems. It just runs, it's going to run right down the hill. Just watch. I'm not a person to make some type of prediction like that, but it's obvious. What comes up must go down. Right, so all that water came down, it's into the mountains, it's got to come all the way down when it melts, and it's going to run into problems because those homes are built on soil that has synthetic stuff in there. It's sterile, there's no root hairs, and it can't grab onto it, and everything's going to run right down the hill. Better living through chemistry? I think not. Over here, you don't need any of that stuff. You have root hairs that grow, you don't get erosion, everything grows really well. I didn't talk about the opportunists over here as well. When you sterilize the soil and you get poor root growth, you get poor plant growth that grows weakened. And when it grows weakened, that invites in pests and pathogens. And you got problems. So you get things that grow that are poor in their nutrient content. And they're basically diseased. And so you need antibiotics and pesticides and herbicides and fungicides, and that creates problems. In Asia, we know the banana crop, the #1 eaten banana in the world, is going extinct because of a fungus, a super fungus, not just a fungus, it's now a super fungus because it's a fungus that has resisted the fungicide and become a monster, and they can't stop it. The same thing has happened here in the state of Florida. The first year in many, 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 many decades where the state of Florida, if any time, it might be the first year ever, that the state of Florida has had to import juicing oranges. Because juicing oranges, the #1 industry in Florida, is going to be extinct according to some in 5 years because of a greening disease caused from a bacteria that they can't defeat. So it is not just a bacteria, it's a super bacteria because they've used antibiotics, and Roundup, remember, is an antibiotic. And so it's going to kill off the good microbes and leave the bad ones behind that will then rise up and become super bugs and super microbes. like the MRSAs and the C. diff and everything else we're getting out there, flesh-eating bacteria, it's killing off nature as well. Better living through chemistry? I don't think so. Over here, you don't get opportunists. When everything grows here with all of the microbes in the root hairs and all the nutrient uptake, which we're going to dive into tonight, these things get tough outer coatings. The stem of the plant gets really, really tough. Pests don't like that. They don't come when it's healthy. The pathogens don't come either because it's a healthy environment, and I'll get to that more so in a second. So that's a quick review. I'm going to keep going over this stuff and hammering it through because people need to understand there already is a better way to do things. We at Your Biotics and Your Lawn and Garden Pro have unlocked the power of Mother Nature and are bringing it back to the soil. So we can actually clean up this environment. It's going to take work and it's going to take an army of microbes to do it, but the power of the archaea microbes and their electrostatic charge, the electrostatic charge breaks apart the bonds that hold chemistry together and they fall apart. And so the microbes will clean all that up and use it for other things. That's what they do. So all this chemical can be knocked out by our products. This one for farms and large homes. This bag goes up to 5 acres. We have cases of 10 of these, so it's 50 acres, and we sell them in cases of 10 to farms. And it's got a desiccant in here to keep it dry because this powder is super concentrated and it covers a lot. This doesn't look like much, but it will cover in water 5 acres. This will clean up the human body. And I've said before in other videos, no soil and no body is the same. And so every single one of them requires different times, different amounts. If you've got this kind of toxicity, you need a lot more. If you've got this kind of toxicity, you need more, but less than this one. If you've got this type over here, you need less, and you may not need much at all, but as long as we live in this world and the wind blows when the airplanes put all that stuff all over the crops, you still need to use it over here in the organic farms. This stuff literally is a planet saver. Literally is a planet saver. And we have to do something to get it out. And I'm not stopping until it happens. This is a body saver. This isn't just a probiotic. These are probiotics that can clean up the chemical waste in the human body. They're powerful. I've showed videos before. Let me just pull some of them out because I have my TV here and I understand it may. So here's 50 billion CFU, a $50 probiotic on the market, and it's not showing up. Why is that? Oh, it's the iCloud. So it's got to pull it up. Hold on one second. So there it is. This may or may not show up. Okay, that's not what I wanted. This may or may not show up out there. But this is freeze-dried probiotics, which is basically dead tissue. This stuff, I'll show you in a second, is alive. There's us scrolling through. The table is shaking, so you see dirt and everything going. And it's just not a whole heck of things that are alive. Dead cellulose, dead tissue. Okay? And let me get out of this one. And drop that. And we've got, here is the Urbiotics. I'll give it a second. It's got to load it up from the iCloud because it's video. So this product is the first and only archaea-based probiotic on the market. The archaea are the bosses of the microbiome. Here's where it gets interesting. When you do RNA, DNA sequencing of this stuff, you will find millions of reads on this thing. Microbiology may know of about now 150,000 different strains of microbiology. Okay, so here it is. Let me pull that up. So I'm going to let that play while I talk. This is your biotics on the microscope. And you see all this individual movement and you see glowing. Right? St. Patrick's Day is coming up. And here's a pot of gold right here, literally. Archaea microbes that are in both of these put energy, electrostatic energy into the microbiome, and that's what causes this stuff to glow. It glows with energy. Life has energy. We're putting life back into the microbiome. So these things go in and they're potent with the human body. They're going to do their job. They're not going to just take 3 weeks to come alive and do a little bit of work. They're going to do their job. So when you get this thing cranking, okay, with all of that DNA and RNA in it, we know of about 150,000 maybe of the different strains of microbiology. There's archaea. We know of, I think we're over now of 600 different strains of archaea. Microbiology is way behind us. We're just going to continue doing our research while they're stuck in the universities being held back by the industry. This stuff has all of those different strains in there. There are ones that we know are bacteria, ones we know are archaea, ones we know that are fungi, like the mycorrhizae fungi. And then there are ones that we know don't fit in those 3 categories. And it's in this powder because we get this from Mother Nature. 40 years of digging up roots in different forests from around the country and culturing microbes from everywhere. So there are a group that now, I think it's about 4 or 5 different scientists know that there's something else out there. In other words, in biology, we have 3 branches of the tree of life. It looks like there's a 4th, and we're starting to figure them out. And it seems like they are more ancient and they are the hierarchy. Like they're the boss, the archaea are the managers, the probiotics and the fungi are the workers. And the charge gets thrown in this direction. So it's pretty powerful. They're already in there, these unknown ones that don't fit in the different RNA, DNA strands of the different strains of microbes, the archaea, the fungi, and the bacteria, the probiotics. They're in here. They're also in here. We just don't know what they are, but in nature, we don't see problems, right? I have patients that work in zoos. They tell me nightmare stories of trying to keep animals alive because they're taking something from nature and trying to put it in a box. Just like I'm in a box right now. I'm a natural being. I'm supposed to be out there running around, and I'm in a box. So we are over here. Human beings are supposed to be in this direction, not over here. This is not better living through chemistry. So let's go back to this stuff here. Let me scroll ahead. And remember, microbiology on a microscope, it's 3-dimensional. Right? It's this dimension, that dimension. It's 3-dimensional on the microscope. So those who have microscopes and want to look at this, you have to really search up and down and all around until you find, because sometimes these guys all hang out together, or if there's a plant cell inside there, which is what that is, they're going to hang around it because that's what they do. They want to be happy in an environment where they're helping something get better and heal. Microbes are very territorial. They're going to make sure they protect this microbiome or the land microbiome from invaders. And so they will go after pathogens as well. The opportunists, pests and pathogens. When you build something healthy, pathogens can't come attack this. It's not what's outside that gets us, it's the health of the inside. That should all make sense. Your biotics on the microscope with energy, glowing gold. It's a pot of gold, literally. It's glowing gold. There's nothing else on the market like this. If anybody finds one, please let me know, but it might take 30 years to do that. And here is, see the next one. And this is your lawn and garden probiotics on the microscope. You can see it's different. There's a lot more in this bag for plants than there is in this for us for various reasons. We're different species entirely. So this is what it looks like this is minutes. So you mix it in water, and this is minutes. I actually have some water here because I get thirsty when it's 80-some degrees in Florida. And yes, this is our powder. There's a scoop of powder. This is literally what we do on the microscope, and one of these videos in the future, I'll bring the microscope and I'll show you guys this stuff. It's just going to take some time to get it there. So you take a pipette, you take some of this out, you put it on the microscope, take a look at it, and within minutes this starts to happen. And there's critters running around all over here, all kinds of different strains that are in here. I'm still thirsty. Your lawn and garden probiotics. It comes from Mother Nature. It's all Mother Nature. It's holistic treatment for the microbiome, which is the land, the lawn, the gardens. And I'm going to drink it because it's all from Mother Nature. It doesn't have a stamp of approval on it to be for human use, but you sure can drink it. Actually has a pretty good taste to it as well. So that's that. Now we're going to dive deeply into the microbiome, specifically things that grow. Let me move the TV out of the way a little bit. This is geared more towards anybody who wants to grow something. This is for your lawn, for those of homeowners that are out there. And we'll get into some questions in a little bit. For lawns, gardens, farms, anything that grows, and anybody who wants to grow anything, this will apply to it, okay? So this is all new research, and I'm talking 6 months to 2 years new research, and here's why. When I was in school, we studied things in microbiology, and we would stain microbes, stain cells, so we could see them on the microscope. Unfortunately, when you stain something, you kill it and you shrink it. And so it will not look the same as it does in nature. This stuff is not stained. This is high-powered microscope looking at alive things. There's no staining here, so you can see things are the way they are in nature. So when you stain it, you miss things. When I was in school, they said the nervous system has zero control over the immune system. That's because they stained everything and cells would pull back. But when they looked under higher powered microscopes, light microscopes that were alive, you would see nerves touching macrophages, immune cells, literally touching them. So the signal could tell them, go do that. All right? Staining techniques help us learn something, but not the true thing that is going on. So live microscopes are key, like here. And there is live microscopes now of literally the roots to see what happens in the roots. So let's dive in. Let's have some fun with this. This is from Dr. James White, PhD from Rutgers. My practice in Delaware, where I've been at for the last almost 27 years. Very close. We have some ties to that university with our science and everything. Great stuff coming out of there. There's also on YouTube, you can find a Matt Powers, the permaculture student, and he's got some very easy to digest information if you guys want to learn more. But here's the gist of it. This is a healthy plant here, and when you dive into the root structure of a healthy plant, you will see microbes everywhere. Okay? You've got microbes at the tips of the root hairs, microbes inside the root hairs, microbes running around the inside of the root, a whole bunch at the stem at the bottom of it, and a whole bunch on the outside. That is what you'll find when you study nature, but not here in sterilized soil. That's key. This happens only when there's microbiology around. Remember, Roundup is an antibiotic. It kills microbes, and without microbes, you don't get healthy plants, period. So let's first talk about the air and the land, okay? So obviously the air is something that we breathe, right? So in the air, we have nitrogen, oxygen, some CO2, and argon are the main components of it. So here's where it's very interesting. I've talked about this before, but nitrogen is 79% of the air. Nitrogen that the plants need to grow, 79% is in the air around us. No need to fertilize, just find something that can get it from the air. Sounds logical, doesn't it? Oxygen is 21%, right? That means minuscule amounts are here and here, and yet we're told CO2 is a major problem. CO2 is food to microbes and food to plants. It's necessary, and so is nitrogen. You need sun, you need leaves that are a canopy out in the sun for a plant to grow. You need nitrogen at the root structure. You need oxygen, which is basically released by the plant during its chemistry process with all this. And you have minute amounts of this. So this is a natural cycle that occurs with microbes. So you have to have microbes. Which ones? I don't know. You need them all. So we put all of them in there. I'm not smart enough to figure out which ones these guys need, and nobody is. I don't care how many PhDs you have, how many MDs, how many degrees you have. Nobody's smart enough to figure out Mother Nature. Maybe one day we will. Until that happens, we put it all in. We take it all from Mother Nature and put it back in the soil. I've had microbiologists in Europe tell me that there's 5 that are needed. I've had a PhD in charge of a lab in Canada that told me there's 30 that are needed. Who knows? But when you go out and you find them all and put them all the archaea we can find, all the bacteria, probiotics we can find, and the mycorrhizae fungi, all of it we can find and culture it, and we've been culturing it more and more and more for 40 years. So we've amassed numerous amounts of microbes, all from Mother Nature. That's what's needed inside here. So the key, farmers, you're putting DAP and MAP and NPK, and your lawn owners, you're doing the same thing for your lawns. 79% of the air is nitrogen. Microbes called nitrogen fixers grab the nitrogen and feed it to the root structure, which is fascinating in how that works. It releases oxygen back into the atmosphere. Now, we can take a deep dive into this, because why is it only 21%? How do you get this stuff back to Eden times, which I don't know what it was like in Eden, but I know it had to have been better, right? We read in the good books about that, and it was supposed to be amazing. 21% oxygen we can get by, sort of, as humans, in plants and animals and everything else. But what if it was double that? What do you think would happen? Oxygen comes from plants. If you plant more plants and plant more trees, you get more oxygen. And they take up the CO2 that's in the atmosphere. So do the microbes. They take up the CO2 as well as the nitrogen from the atmosphere and feed it into this whole structure. Okay? Pretty fascinating. So you don't need to fertilize. You need nitrogen-fixing bacteria to grab the nitrogen. In the soils that have the DAP and the MAP, the phosphate, the synthetic phosphate that is locked and it's bound to other minerals, and the plants can't get it. It's the microbes that grab it. There are phosphate solubilizing microbes that grab phosphate. So N, P, K, much more is needed for that plant to be healthy, but that's what we're told is the only thing that the plants need. But remember, without everything, they grow up weak, invite in pests, pathogens, and problems occur. N comes from the air when you're doing it with microbiology. P is already in the soil. When things die and it goes into the ground, you get more phosphate. When animals die, you get it. When plants and everything else dies and it goes back into the soil. It's a constant cycle of phosphate on planet Earth. We're not running out of phosphate. We're not running out of nitrogen. It's a constant. But here's what happens. In Mother Nature, in that holistic world that we talked about, in a forest, when it's fall, all those leaves come down to the ground and it gets broken down into that humic layer, which is always moist even in a drought. Losing my stuff here again. Okay, so even in a drought, a forest keeps on growing because it gets its nitrogen, its phosphorus from the soil and everything else with it in a healthy soil, because everything falls to the ground. So that's key. Remember, for zoos, they take an animal from the wild, put it in a cage, and feed it soy and corn and things like that that are GMO'd with herbicide on it. And so it creates all kinds of problems for that animal. It needs to be out into the wild. So what we've done is take microbiology from the wild and bring it back to the boxes. Your lawn, your garden, your farm. It's a box. It's like a zoo. It's a zoo for wild species of plants, is basically all that is. Grass is natural, but it's not supposed to be all by itself. But it sure does look nice, doesn't it? This stuff will make the roots grow. So let's get into that. So here's where it's very interesting. Okay, so we've got a root structure here. Down at the bottom of the root, where the root needs to grow, this is interesting. They call this rhizophagy. Rhizo means root. Phagy is eating. Literally, plant's root structure grows or farms microbes and eats them. That's Mother Nature. It's wild and crazy. The root structure, and this is not one root, this is every single root. This is grass roots, this is plant roots, tree roots, it's all roots, period. This is how roots react and act in nature. The root structure will secrete what they call exudate. It spews out chemistry into the tip of the root to attract microbiology, to attract the bacteria. And the bacteria will eat on organic acids and amino acids and other good chemistry in that exudate, and they'll feed off of it and they'll multiply. Just like the microbes in here will multiply because we put what's in there, including amino acids, organic amino acids, and chemistry from plants to help things multiply. So when you take a bag that does 5 acres, once you put it in water, this stuff goes hog wild crazy, farmers. Okay? Because the root secretes stuff to grow the farm of microbes. So the microbes grow in numbers. And here's where it gets interesting. They invite in the microbes across this structure, the root structure, right up and through here. They invite them in and they jump into that area of the root structure. And the root secretes a superoxide. It's a radical oxygen that breaks off the cell wall of the microbe. Now here's where it's interesting. If the microbe doesn't have nitric oxide to defend itself, it will die. Nitric oxide is nitrogen. Where is nitrogen found? In the air, 79%. So when the microbes are healthy with nitrogen, they get through here and they survive this onslaught. Ones that don't get killed and digested by the plant. And all that nutrition that's in the microbe that it got from the air and from the soil gets digested into the root, and the root starts to grow. That's how you get root growth. It's the microbes that create the root growth, and the root is farming the microbes so it can eat some of those microbes. And that's how they get nutrition. The ones that secrete nitrogen, nitric oxide, resist the damage and are able to survive, and they start to go around and around the roots, and then they start to push out root hairs. And without microbiology, you get 0 root hairs. That is a proven fact because of the research in the last 2 years at Rutgers and other institutes that are doing more research on this. So you get all these root hairs being pushed out. There's a stress chemical called ethylene that the microbes will secrete as they're running around basically naked inside the root because they have no cell wall. As they run around inside there, they secrete ethylene, and ethylene seems to trigger root hair growth, and then you get the microbes running back and forth inside the root hairs, and they grow a cell wall back. So they start to regenerate, grow a cell wall, and then they jump out at the tip of the root hairs, and the same thing happens. You get exudate and more of this stuff happening. So the root hairs will grow longer, the root stem will grow longer, and the thing will keep on going, and that equals one heck of a healthy whatever it is you're growing. If it's a lawn, these microbes will make the roots grow down to, we've had it as deep as 13.5 inches with this stuff. Is it going to happen in 30 days? Maybe. All right, I'll show you some studies that we've had recently done where it just shows you things that you may not see on the outside, but the chemistry on the inside is absolutely kicking butt with this stuff. We'll get into that in a second. So, literally, the root farms microbes, feeds them down here, invites them in, attacks them to try to kill them, to grab the nutrition for the root, and then the microbes that survive push out root hairs. You get 0 root hairs without microbes, with a synthetic soil, with that, yes, it's called an antibiotic, Roundup, kills off all the bacteria. None of this happens. Literally, none of this happens. And if 99% of French are peeing Roundup out and 80% of Americans are peeing it out, you better believe most of the soil in those 2 countries is sterile and none of this is happening. So you get sick plants, and if you eat sick plants that are full of pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, we get weaker and sicker. That invites in pests here, all right? Opportunists that kill us down, break us down, and something needs to come along to fix it. And it's the power of Mother Nature. Mother Nature is here, and Mother Nature is here. This is for your land. This is for your body. You can't have a healthy body in a crappy land. That's why, as a doctor, 27 years experience, it didn't take me long to figure out we are getting sicker in this country year after year after year with more and more diseases, and they are from 350,000 chemicals that are inundating us left and right, and that breaks body tissue down. This stuff will clean up the land from those chemicals and human waste and even water from the chemicals. So will this. This is cheap in comparison to this. This has chemistry for the human to really work good on human chemistry. So this is for the land and the lakes and the streams. We have specific nitrogen fixing products that go into lakes and streams to take the algae, which is full of nitrogen, and release it back into the atmosphere. So it goes back to here. That's a cycle. It's a nitrogen cycle. So we have ways to take algae-filled ponds that I know you farmers have every year in your farms, and you can't use that water because it's going to destroy your crops. We have microbes that'll handle that for you, so you have healthy water. We have microbes that'll clean up rivers and lakes and streams and Gulfs of Mexico with the red tide, so it can release the nitrogen back up into the air and fix it all. But the problem is, some people don't want us to put this on. It's kind of crazy. So, making sense so far. Farmers, you don't need NPK. You got it through the microbes in nature. It's natural. This also contains humic acid, plant-based minerals, all of them from Mother Nature, so the plant can be healthy with NPK and everything else. Because NPK won't do it. It creates a fast-growing, weakened structure. You need all the other microbes to make things grow healthy. Just like you need probiotics in your body to digest food in your gut to be healthy. And this stuff will detoxify you. So if your gut's not working your skin becomes a primary detoxification target for the human body, and rashes and blemishes and irritation will develop. So you got to clean up your environment and clean up your body with this stuff to get things right again. I'm going to keep on driving that home because that is absolutely vital to being healthy in this modern day crazy 350,000 chemical world that we live in. And the chemicals are carcinogenic, neurotoxin, they're damaging, they're killing bees, they're killing people, they're killing oranges, they're killing bananas, they're killing our respiratory systems with the red tide. It's ridiculous, and it is not better living through chemistry. It's much better doing it through Mother Nature. So, that should explain roots and what you need to have healthy roots, roots that grow longer and longer. The more you use the product successively, the longer these things will grow. More root hairs will develop, and they will offshoot and keep on going, and nothing will erode at that point when things keep on growing. So with successive use, you have to first clean up the toxicity in the land. So the first few doses may just be there to clean up the Roundup and all the chemistry that's in there before the microbiology can start to do this. But they'll do that. Archaea microbes are electrostatically charged. This is the glowing. The glowing and the energy that's in it is the archaea. Archaea protect the microbiome, electrostatically charge and clean up the microbiome and destroy pathogens, just like superoxide in the root kills off the cell wall of bacteria. The archaea have that ability as well using electrostatic charge. So archaea are our mastery. We are figuring those critters out and the ones above them right now because the time is right. Since 2016, we're going this way, people. Since 1996, when I started in practice in the state of Delaware, obesity has gone like that. Sickness has gone like that. Cancer has gone up. Everything has gone up. And something has to be done about it. And that's why I exist, to bring products to the marketplace to do that. So now let's go over some research. And once we get some research, I will answer some questions. So this is specifically our powder used with grass. So this is upside down. These are the containers here, turned upside down so you can see the root system. This one here has nothing except NPK. None of this was used. You see at the base, nothing, really just a couple roots, really. A little bit of roots down and through here. And this is using our product. Within days of use, the roots start to grow all over the place, which you can see. Hopefully that shows up on the camera. I'm not sure. If not, we will post this so everybody can see this. Roots grow with microbes. They do not grow without them. That's grass, everybody. So if you have a lawn, your lawn will grow deeper roots and become healthier. When you have roots that go down, weeds can't get a root structure down far enough to get nutrients. And over 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 seasons, say goodbye to the weeds. They'll just start disappearing if it is a lawn that you're growing. It won't get rid of crabgrass. Right now, it's basically springtime here for grass in Florida, and I can see the structure of the crabgrass. And it would take, the only way to really get rid of it is to pull it, and I don't have the energy to do that with everything else that I'm doing, so I'm just going to let it grow. So unfortunately, we can't get rid of crabgrass because it's grass. But weeds are not grass. The grass roots will grow down, the weeds won't grow down that big, they never do, so they'll get choked out. So this will make a lawn better. Now let's get into some of the other studies that we have here. So there's the microbes. Let me get rid of those. And the eurobiotics. And get rid of that. So here's soil analysis. So let me see which one of these we're at. Okay, so this is the after. So let me get to the one that is, okay. So this is a testing of a golf course in 2019. So it's a soil analysis that was done. I've showed the image of the golf course where the greens were still green on a thermal image where they should be red hot in the middle of August at a golf course. So they tested, there's green number 5, 11, 15, and 18. And so they tested before samples, and then here I should be able to blow up. Yep, I can blow this up, so hopefully you guys can see this, and I'll pull this out a little bit. So this is green number 5. And here we go. So this is green number 5. This is before any treatment was done. This is your typical NPK type of golf course where they use synthetic fertilizer, herbicides, things like that to keep it nice looking so when it's on camera and everything. So they did a soil health score right here was 12.5 on green number 5. Green number 11 had a 13.7. Oop, that one. Green number 18 had an 8.3, and green number 15 had a 12.4. So anywhere in the green is considered okay. So it did okay. You had some areas where we're a little bit off in the other ratios, like CO2 respiration, carbon nitrogen ratio, etc. But the total health score is based on everything. So let's take this up now. Oop, those are all the different pages. So I'm going to get out of that. That doesn't work. So let me get out of that, and then I'll go over to this one. And this is 3 months after treating a golf course. So in 3 months after treating with the microbes, soil health score for green number 5, 38.8. Remember, it was in the 12s, 12 and 13 down here. This one here, green number 11, 51.3. You can see the green is over here off, just about off the charts. This one's almost off the chart at 51.3. So in 3 months of using this powder, the golf course soil health, root health, health of that microbiome shot off the charts. Green number 15, 73.3. The normal range up here is 30 to 50. This one's off the charts. 51.3 is just off the chart. And then the last one got to 42. Now remember, the last one was 8. It was in the yellow. So it went from 8 to 42, which is just incredible what it can do. So remember back here, this is the before. So 12.5, 13.7, 12.4, and 8.3 in 3 months. Went to 38.8, 51.3, 73.3, and 42. That's soil health. That may or may not be visible right away to the naked eye. Because if you're using NPK, it's going to look green. So it may not change it much. But over the course of successive treatments, successive months and years, you'll get a microbiome that returns. And I'm convinced it'll return back to Eden-like times, because we can surmise that the days of Eden had a heck of a lot more oxygen in the air, had healthier plants and animals. Supposedly people lived 300, 600, 900 years. Supposedly creatures were larger on this planet a long time ago. So we would have to have, for respiratory ones that use oxygen, larger beings need more oxygen, smaller beings need less. And so if there was more, it would be able to have larger creatures that would live healthier and longer. And it's microbiology and cleaned up environments that are key, as well as exercise. Okay, I believe we should all be hunter-gatherers as much as possible. Even if you sit at a computer all day, you better exercise outside. First thing I do in the morning when I'm in Florida is I get up, I grab 2 of these capsules, I put it in water, in a quart of water. This is one of the quarts from home. And I drink it, and I take the dog out to see the chickens and walk around the gardens and walk around the yard with bare feet to make sure I get some morning sun and ground myself for electron balance, because we're electrical beings. We go into the plants here. This is a cycle, okay? Plants take in CO2, release oxygen. We take in oxygen and release CO2. It is a cycle of life in biology. They do it through the chlorophyll molecule, and if you look at the chlorophyll molecule, and I'll show that to you in another video, it's fascinating. It's almost identical to hemoglobin. In other words, plants and us are so related, we're just the reverse. They plug into Mother Earth with their root structure, so they're electrically connected, and their canopy is towards the sun, always. Plants will always turn towards the sun because the sun is healing. The sun is anti-cancer. Really? Yes, I had stage 4 malignant melanoma, and all I could find out about the sun is it is what creates vitamin D3, which is anti-cancer. So I didn't stay out of it, I went into it. I didn't put SPF on because it contains carcinogens and neurotoxins, and I can show you the chemistry that supports that and backs that up in a future seminar. This stuff is toxic. I go get sun. I use super oxidants for my body, like ginger and carrots and beets, roots that are juiced, and drink a quart of it, literally in one of these, because glass is better than plastic or stainless steel, and drink it and then go out into the sun with all of that antioxidants in it. Jasmonate, which is our main driving force inside here, it's also in here because we want these to multiply. But jasmonate, methyl jasmonate, is a plant morphology or cell multiplier. It takes good cells and multiplies them fast, and bad cells, it decreases their numbers and shrinks them. It's highly antioxidant. Jasmonate by itself has been shown to be anti-cancer. Add archaea microbes with electrostatic charge and you've got something. The whole microbiome seems to fall into place. What should not be in the microbiome will get kicked out by what's in these products, because that's what archaea do. And that's what jasmonate drives good cells to do. Good cells multiply, bad cells shrink. Hope that's all making sense. So this was a soil test that was done 3 months on a golf course, and it rocked that golf course. That's why during a drought, during that hot sun, that green still looks good. I do have let me go back up. Yeah, here it is. Here's the picture of it. So that's the green, and this is a thermal camera. Thermal reads red hot, orange pretty hot, and green is cool. The greens here are very short grass, and yet they read cool. The rough grasses are thick with a natural canopy to shade itself, to shade the roots, and it's taken up a lot of heat because the microbes create healthy plants. This is the healthy one right here. The microbes create super health that resists pests, pathogens, and it resists Mother Nature's extremes. The archaea are in lava. They can survive that kind of heat. They're in acid mine drains. They can survive That's strong of acid. They're in the salt flats of California. They are the colors of the salt flats out in San Francisco. They can survive salt. Bacteria can't. Not much can survive lava. Not much can survive acid either. Archaea can. They can survive heat in the hot springs and the blowholes. With that intense heat, they create the colors of the hot springs. Archaea are amazing. Using infrared mass spec, which we will have in our laboratory soon, and our research will go like that. You find them in the skin of humans, the gut of humans, the gut of animals. They're everywhere, but they're definitely found in extreme environments as well. That's where they gather because nobody will bother them. In the laboratory, we put archaea down and a toxin. They either went that way or this way. We figured out it was a game of numbers. We added more archaea. They went that way because they could take it out. If they don't have the numbers, they go that way to hot springs, to lava, where there's no chemicals that can bother them. That's just how they are in the laboratory, and that's how they are in nature. But when you put them in an army on top of a microbiome like this, they protect it. So plants are protected by archaea, probiotics, and mycorrhizae fungi. They create super strong root structure, super strong leaves. When you have microbes and you foliar spray, so with grass, you're foliar spraying your grass. With plants, you foliar spray and root spray, both, because these things on the leaves, they will open up. That's what I put here. The pores will open up on the leaves so more nutrition from the air can come into the plant. And here's where it gets interesting. If you absolutely positively can't have weeds, and you've got to use that herbicide, even though it's been shown to cause cancer in 3 court cases, here's how our stuff works. It's so effective in what it does that it opens up the pores that if you use full strength of that herbicide, you'll kill the plant because it's sucking all of that internally. Usually when you spray the herbicide, the wind blows half of it away, and so you get half of it to the plant, and the plant's closed off to it because it's not healthy, and so the herbicide can't get into the plant to protect it and things like that. So when you open this up, the herbicide will get into it. You only need about half the first year, and the second year of applying this stuff, the plant will get so healthy that it becomes super efficient at absorbing nutrients through the leaves, the grass, and the plant leaves and everything. And so you only need to use about 1/4 of the Roundup after year 2. Year 3, you shouldn't need it because everything will grow so darn well and the weeds should start to get minimalized. When you take a plant that's supposed to grow in nature and you grow it in rows, okay, all the microbes, if they're in there, if you use glyphosate, they're gone. But if you use them, the roots all gather here around the roots. So if you have a ditch over here with nothing, no grass, no cover crop or anything, the microbes are going to be here, not in the middle. So you'll get fungus and other things that'll grow because the microbes are here protecting this microbiome, not where there's nothing growing. So farming can run into problems like that, but still after about 3 years of using this stuff, you can kiss goodbye to Roundup and all the other paraquats and everything else that's out there destroying the environment. Remember, 350,000 chemicals are used everywhere, and it's destroying our environment and us in the process. So that, I believe, is all I have to say for the evening. Remember, it's so safe for the environment. You can drink it.